The coffee shop receipt fell from my jacket pocket as I hung it on the coat rack. March 15th, 2:47 p.m. The same time Sarah had texted me she was working late at the hospital. My hands trembled as I picked up the small paper, studying the two cappuccinos listed on it. She didn't even drink cappuccinos. She always ordered black coffee. I'm Marcus Reed, 38 years old, and until that moment, I thought I understood my life. For 12 years, I'd been teaching literature at Riverside High School in Seattle. Sarah worked as a nurse practitioner at St. Michael's Hospital. We had no children by choice, focusing instead on our careers and each other, or so I believed. The previous week, I'd noticed small changes. Her phone always face down, new perfume, coming home with her hair slightly different than when she'd left. The classic signs everyone warns you about, but you never think will happen to you. I dismissed them, told myself I was being paranoid. But this receipt was tangible evidence of something wrong. I sat in our living room, the receipt clutched in my hand, remembering how we'd met. It was at a bookstore reading 10 years ago. I was reading excerpts from my unpublished novel, and she was in the audience, asking the most insightful questions. After the reading, we talked for hours about Hemingway, Fitzgerald, and the nature of love in literature. I thought I'd found my soulmate. That evening, Sarah came home at her usual time. She kissed my cheek distractedly and headed to the shower. I wanted to confront her, to demand answers, but fear paralyzed me. What if my suspicions were correct? What if asking the question destroyed the illusion of our marriage? Instead, I did something I'm not proud of. I checked her phone while she was in the shower. The password was still my birthday. What I found made my blood run cold. Messages with someone named Alex. Nothing explicitly romantic, but intimate in a way that married people shouldn't be with others. Inside jokes. Plans to meet. Heart emojis. I put the phone back exactly where she'd left it. Sarah emerged from the bathroom toweling her hair, and I looked at her as if seeing a stranger. "Are you okay?" she asked, noticing my expression. "You look pale." "Just tired," I lied. "Long day at school." She accepted this without question and went to make dinner. I sat there, my mind racing. Should I confront her? Hire a private investigator? File for divorce? Or was I jumping to conclusions based on circumstantial evidence? The next morning, I called in sick to school. After Sarah left for work, I sat at my laptop and did something I'd never imagined doing. I tracked her phone using the family sharing feature we'd set up years ago for safety. The dot on the map showed her at the hospital, but at 2:30 p.m. it moved to a cafe across town, the same cafe from the receipt. I drove there, parking across the street with a clear view of the entrance. At 2:45, Sarah arrived. She was smiling, looking more animated than I'd seen her in months. 5 minutes later, a man appeared. Tall, athletic, wearing scrubs. They hugged, and my heart shattered. I couldn't watch anymore. I drove away, tears blurring my vision. I ended up at Golden Gardens Park, staring at the Puget Sound. The water was gray and choppy, matching my mood. I sat on a bench for hours, trying to process what I'd seen. By the time I got home, I'd made a decision. I couldn't confront Sarah yet. I needed to know the full truth first. Over the next 2 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. I followed her. I checked her phone regularly. I noted every discrepancy in her schedule. The evidence mounted. She was meeting this Alex 3 times a week, always at different places. Coffee shops, parks, even a hotel once. The hotel was my breaking point. I couldn't take it anymore. I packed a bag, withdrew half our savings, and left a note. "I know about Alex. I need time to think. Don't try to contact me." I drove north without a clear destination. I ended up in Vancouver Island, renting a small cottage near Tofino. The place was isolated, facing the ocean, perfect for someone trying to disappear. I turned off my phone and tried to forget. The first week was hell. I alternated between rage and despair. I drank too much. I barely ate. I wrote furious entries in a journal, imagining confrontations with Sarah and this Alex person. But gradually the ocean's rhythm began to soothe me. I started taking long walks on the beach. I began reading again, really reading, for the first time in years. One day, I noticed a flyer at the local community center. They needed someone to teach an evening creative writing class. On impulse, I applied. The pay was minimal, but I didn't care. I needed something to focus on besides my broken marriage. The class was small, just 8 students, retirees mostly looking for a hobby. But there was one young woman, Maya, who had real talent. She wrote raw, honest prose about her own struggles with addiction and recovery. Her work reminded me why I'd become a teacher in the first place. After class one evening, she approached me. "Your feedback today really helped," she said. "You mentioned Hemingway's iceberg theory, that the dignity of movement lies in what's beneath the surface. I've been thinking about that." "It's one of my favorite concepts," I replied. "Most of life's meaning exists in what we don't say, what we leave unspoken." "Is that why you're here?" she asked suddenly. "Because there's something unspoken in your life?" I was taken aback by her directness. "What makes you say that? You teach with passion, but there's sadness in your eyes, and you never mention a family, even though you wear a wedding ring." I looked down at the gold band on my finger. I hadn't thought to remove it. "It's complicated," I said finally. "It always is," she replied. "But running from complications doesn't resolve them. Trust me, I know." Her words haunted me that night. Was I running, or was I taking necessary space to heal? I didn't have an answer. A month passed, then two. I established a routine: morning walks, writing in the afternoon, teaching in the evenings. I started working on a novel, something I hadn't attempted in years. The words flowed more easily here, away from the pressure and routine of my old life. I also made friends with my neighbor, an elderly man named Tom who'd been a fisherman his whole life. We'd sit on his porch in the evenings, drinking beer and talking about life. "My wife and I almost divorced once," he told me one night. "We were young, stupid. She thought I was cheating because I was sneaking around. Turns out I was planning a surprise party for our anniversary." "So it was all a misunderstanding?" I asked. "Well, yes and no. The real issue was we'd stopped talking. Really talking. We'd become roommates who shared a bed. The suspected affair was just a symptom of deeper problems." "How did you fix it?" "We didn't, not right away. I left for 3 months, worked on a fishing boat in Alaska, gave us both space to think. When I came back, we started over, dating again, rebuilding trust. It took years, but we made it work." "What if the cheating is real?" I asked. Tom looked at me carefully. "Is this about you, son?" I nodded, surprised to feel tears forming. "I found evidence, saw them together, but I never confronted her. I just left. And now you're here, teaching writing classes and walking on beaches, but you're no closer to answers than when you left." "No," I admitted. "I'm not." "Here's what I learned," Tom said. "Running away doesn't solve problems, it just postpones them. Eventually, you have to face the truth, whatever it is." That night, I turned on my phone for the first time in 2 months. It took 20 minutes to load all the messages. Hundreds from Sarah. The first ones were angry, demanding to know where I was, then worried, then desperate. The most recent from yesterday: "Marcus, please, we need to talk. Nothing is what you think. I'm begging you." There were also messages from my principal, from friends, from Sarah's mother. Everyone worried about me. Everyone except Alex, which made sense. He probably didn't even know I existed. I called Sarah. She answered on the first ring. "Marcus? Oh God, Marcus, where are you?" "I'm safe," I said. "That's all you need to know. Please come home. I can explain everything." "Explain what?" "How you've been meeting Alex 3 times a week. How you lied about working late. How I saw you at that hotel." There was a long silence. Then Sarah said something that confused me. "Hotel? What hotel?" "Don't play dumb. 2 weeks before I left, you went to the Sheraton downtown with Alex." "Marcus, I've never been to the Sheraton with anyone. What are you talking about?" "I tracked your phone. I saw you there." Another silence. Then Sarah laughed, but it was a bitter, sad sound. "Oh, Marcus, you tracked my phone. You saw messages. You followed me, but you never once asked me what was really going on." "Then tell me," I demanded. "Not over the phone. You need to come home, or I'll come to wherever you are. But we're having this conversation face to face. How do I know you're telling the truth?" "You don't. You have to choose to trust me, the same way I have to choose to forgive you for running away instead of talking to me." We arranged to meet at a neutral location, a cafe in Victoria, halfway between where I was and Seattle. It would take me 2 hours to get there. I had 2 hours to prepare myself for whatever truth awaited me. The cafe was busy when I arrived. Sarah was already there, sitting at a corner table. She looked different, thinner, tired, older. When she saw me, her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't move to embrace me. I sat down across from her. "I'm listening." Sarah took a deep breath. Alex is my brother. The words didn't make sense. What? Alexander Mitchell, my half-brother, from my father's first marriage. I shook my head. You don't have a brother. You're an only child. That's what I thought too, until 6 months ago when he contacted me. He found me through one of those DNA testing websites. She pulled out her phone and showed me a message thread. The early messages were awkward, two strangers discovering they were siblings, then growing warmer as they got to know each other. I saw the photo she'd shown Alex. It was a family photo of us. My husband Marcus, the caption read. But why didn't you tell me? I asked, still struggling to process this. I was going to. But it was complicated. Alex grew up thinking badly of our father. I grew up adoring him. We had to work through a lot before I felt ready to introduce him to my life. And honestly, I wasn't sure how you'd react. React? Sarah, I would have been happy for you. Would you? You've been distant for over a year, Marcus, working late, lost in your own head. I thought maybe you were the one having an affair. The irony hit me like a physical blow. I thought, the receipt, the cappuccinos. You hate cappuccinos. I ordered it for Alex. He loves them. And that hotel you mentioned? I've never been there in my life. Are you sure you saw my location correctly? I pulled out my phone, checking the tracking history. Then I saw it. On the day I thought Sarah went to the Sheraton, her location showed the hospital, then a cafe, then back to the hospital. No hotel. I'd misremembered or confused the dates. Oh God, I whispered. I've been such a fool. Yes, Sarah said, but her voice was gentle. But so have I. We both made assumptions instead of talking. We both kept secrets. I should have told you about Alex immediately, and you should have asked me about the receipt instead of running. Can you forgive me? Can you forgive me? We sat there, two people who loved each other but had nearly destroyed everything through fear and miscommunication. Where do we go from here? I asked. That depends. Do you want to go home? I thought about the cottage in Tofino, my writing class, Tom and his evening beers. I'd found peace there, but I'd also found loneliness. Yes, I said, but not to the same life we had before. We need to change things. I agree. I've been thinking about that a lot. I want to reduce my hours at the hospital, spend more time with you. Maybe we could take that trip to Europe we always talked about. I want to keep writing, I said. Really writing, not just grading papers. I started a novel in Tofino. I need to finish it. Then finish it. I'll support you. That's what partners do. We talked for 3 more hours, rebuilding trust brick by brick. Sarah showed me more messages with Alex, photos of them together. I could see the family resemblance now, obvious in hindsight. She explained how they'd been meeting to discuss their father, to compare memories, to build a relationship that had been denied them by circumstances beyond their control. I'd like to meet him, I said finally, if he's willing. He wants to meet you too. He feels terrible about causing problems in our marriage, even inadvertently. It wasn't his fault. It was ours. We forgot how to talk to each other. Before leaving the cafe, I had one more question. Why were you so dressed up when you met him? And happy. I saw you from across the street, and you looked more alive than you had in months. Sarah smiled sadly. Because I was excited. I'd found a brother I never knew existed, and I was dressing up because I wanted to make a good impression. Family matters, Marcus. I thought you understood that. I did understand. That was the painful part. I'd let jealousy and insecurity blind me to the obvious truth. We drove back to Seattle together, leaving my rental car to be picked up later. The journey was quiet but comfortable, both of us processing everything that had been said. When we pulled into our driveway, the house looked different, smaller somehow, but also welcoming. That night we lay in bed, not touching but close. I'm sorry I left, I said into the darkness. I'm sorry I gave you reason to doubt me. You didn't, though, not really. I created those reasons in my own head. We both contributed to the distance between us. Let's agree on that. The next day, Sarah arranged dinner with Alex. I was nervous, but he turned out to be genuinely nice, warm, funny, with Sarah's eyes and laugh. We talked about his childhood, Sarah's, and the father they'd shared but experienced so differently. I don't want to disrupt your lives, Alex said at one point. Sarah means the world to me, but I understand if this is all too much. Your family, I said, surprising myself with how much I meant it. Sarah's family is my family. Over the following months, we rebuilt our marriage. We started weekly date nights. We took that European trip, spending 3 weeks wandering through Paris, Rome, and Barcelona. I finished my novel and even found an agent interested in representing me. Sarah cut back her hours at the hospital and discovered she loved gardening, transforming our backyard into something beautiful. But the biggest change was in how we communicated. We made a rule: no assumptions. If something bothered us, we talked about it immediately. No festering resentments. No silent treatments. Just honest, sometimes difficult conversations. A year after my return, Alex got engaged. He asked me to be a groomsman. Standing there at his wedding, watching him marry the love of his life, I thought about how close I'd come to destroying my own marriage based on a misunderstanding. Tom, my neighbor from Tofino, came to the wedding. We'd stayed in touch, and he'd become a good friend. "You figured it out," he said, raising a glass to me at the reception. "Barely," I admitted. "I almost lost everything." "But you didn't. That's what matters. You both chose to fight for what you had." Sometimes I still think about those months in Tofino, the peace I found there. Peace from running away isn't real peace, it's just postponed pain. The peace you have now, that's earned. That's real. He was right. The life Sarah and I have now isn't perfect. We still argue. We still have bad days. But we have something stronger than we did before. Trust rebuilt through honesty, love reinforced by choice rather than habit. My novel was published the following spring. It was a modest success, enough to give me confidence to keep writing. I dedicated it to Sarah, who taught me that truth is always better than assumption. On our 15th anniversary, we returned to the bookstore where we'd met. They were hosting a reading for my book. Sarah sat in the audience just as she had all those years ago, asking insightful questions. After the reading, we walked to the same cafe where we'd talked for hours on our first unofficial date. "Do you ever regret it?" Sarah asked. "The time you spent in Tofino?" "No," I said honestly. "I needed that time to remember who I was outside of our routines, but I regret not talking to you first. I regret the pain I caused. I regret not being more open about Alex from the beginning. I was so caught up in processing my own feelings about having a brother that I didn't consider how it might look to you. We were both imperfect. We still are. But we're imperfect together. That's the important part." As we walked home that evening, hand in hand, I thought about the journey we'd taken. How a coffee shop receipt and my own insecurities had nearly destroyed us. How running away had taught me that you can't escape your problems, only postpone facing them. How the truth, no matter how complicated, is always better than comfortable lies. Life rarely gives us the clear-cut answers we crave. Sarah hadn't been having an affair, but our marriage had still been in trouble. My leaving had been wrong, but it had also shocked us both into recognizing problems we'd been ignoring. Sometimes the path to healing requires breaking first. These days, I teach my writing students about the importance of communication. Your characters should talk to each other, I tell them. Real conflict comes from real misunderstanding, but resolution comes from honest dialogue. They don't know I'm talking about my own life as much as their fiction. They don't know that every lesson I teach is one I learned the hard way. Sarah and I are planning another trip, this time to Tofino. She wants to see the place where I found myself again. She wants to meet Tom and see the cottage where I wrote my novel. She wants to walk the beaches I walked and understand that part of my journey. "Will it be strange?" she asked when we were making plans. "Going back there together?" "Maybe," I admitted. "But it's time. That place was part of my healing, but it was also part of my avoidance. I need to return to it with you, to reclaim it as something positive rather than a reminder of when we were apart." Life is full of such reclamations, taking painful memories and transforming them through new experiences, learning from mistakes without being defined by them, building something stronger from broken pieces. As I write this, Sarah is in the garden, Alex is visiting next weekend, and I have a second novel due to my publisher in 6 months. Our life isn't perfect, but it's ours, built on honesty rather than assumptions, on communication rather than silence. The sound of silence, I've learned, is the most dangerous sound in a marriage. It's in those quiet moments of unexpressed doubt, unasked questions, and unshared fears that real damage occurs. The noise of honest conversation, even when difficult, is always preferable. We talk now about everything, the big things and the small things, our fears and hopes and daily frustrations. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. Because love isn't just about the good times. It's about choosing each other even when things are difficult. It's about facing hard truths together rather than running from them alone. It's about building trust daily through small acts of honesty and vulnerability. And sometimes it's about recognizing that the greatest threats to our relationships often come not from external forces, but from our own fears and assumptions. The real enemy isn't the imagined affair or the hidden secret. It's the silence we allow to grow between us, filling that space with worst case scenarios rather than asking for the truth. I almost lost everything because I was afraid to ask a simple question. But I got a second chance, and I won't waste it. Every day I choose Sarah. Every day she chooses me. And together we're writing a story far better than anything I could create alone.